Welcome. So glad you are here. This is part 2 of our series called I Love This Place, Now What? Last week we began the series, and we did so by talking through a few reasons why hundreds of people say, I love this place, talking about Forest Park Church. And I offered a few suggestions, and I'm sure you all remember every one of them because you took, very detailed notes as I was speaking last week. So just hang tight for those of them, people who weren't here. We said part of the reasons, or some of the reasons why people love this place is because of our theme. We say no perfect people allowed. Doesn't matter what you've done, doesn't matter what you're doing, doesn't matter the imperfections, brokenness, illness or whatever it is you're struggling with, you're welcome here. We don't excuse that, but we say you're welcome. Come sit beside everybody else who's trying to figure a lot of things out. Our volunteers, that's another reason. We just have some of the most amazing volunteers on the planet. I'm just shocked week after week that they get here as early as they do and put the time and the energy into it. And you just saw again in the video with Drew, our first impressions team, and just how they made such a difference and encouraged him to come in. Our band, and you just witnessed that a moment ago. Our kids and students team, they get here early. They're over there serving our kids and loving on our children and taking care of them and teaching them Jesus on their level. Our outreach, for whether it's our Angel Project where we serve 450 kids this past Christmas season, to food giveaways, which we do every single week, clothing giveaways, which we do periodically, our Ecuador trip, Uganda that we've gone to the last 2 years, and now Kenya this coming year. All of these different things. And I'm sure you can come up with a few things and few reasons why you love being a part of this particular church. And then we ask the important question, why do so many people, why do our volunteers, our band, our kids team, our outreach team, etc., why do they do what they do? Because I know a lot of pastors, I have a lot of friends who pastor churches. I grew up in church my entire life, and I remember struggling, my stepfather and my grandfather who were pastors, struggling to find volunteers, struggling to find people to play in the band. Why do so many people here at Forest Park jump in and say, hey, you can count on me, I'm part of the mission here at Forest Park, etc.? Here's what we said. We said there are 4 main reasons. 1, a radical message, a compelling vision, a love for people, and a commitment to excellence. And we said these 4 serve like pillars that uphold what you see on Sunday mornings and what you see in different events and different outreaches Forest Park offers. And then we looked last week at the very first pillar, and that was the radical message. And we said if we are expected to proclaim the radical message, we got to know what it is. So we spent the entire week last Sunday just unpacking in just a little bit of time, because that in and of itself would be an entire series, but we did the best we could to kind of put the radical message of Christ into the nutshell and hand it to you, and that's this. Everyone can have a right standing with God. That's everyone, no matter where they are, no matter what they've done, no matter where they are in life or where they're headed. You can have a right standing with God, and it comes from God, not from you, but from God through faith in Jesus. Not faith in yourself, not faith in your works, not faith in your efforts, not faith in turning over a new leaf, but faith in Jesus. And you can be made righteous, clean, pure, holy, justified, in right standing with God. How are you made righteous? You are made righteous freely by His grace. That's what the whole message was last week. And then we ended the message by offering 2 prayers. And we said, God, we have opportunities everywhere to share this message, to proclaim this message, but we're going to have our eyes opened. Open our eyes, God, that we might see the opportunities in front of us. And it's not enough to see the opportunities. We have to seize those opportunities. And in order to do that, we got to be brave. So we had those 2 prayers, and I'm hopeful that you have been at least thinking through those this past week. You wrote them down, and maybe you'll make that a prayer this coming year. God, open my eyes to the opportunities at work. Open my eyes to the opportunities at school. Open my eyes to the opportunities in my community. Open my eyes to the opportunities around our world, and then give me the courage I need to seize those opportunities, to go after them and proclaim the message of Christ. Now, this series has a structure. This is a 5-week series covering 5 action steps. 5 action steps that we want everyone at Forest Park who calls this place home to take. The series is called I Love This Place, Now What? We're answering the now what. What do I do? I love here. I love being here. I love being a part of this. What do I do? And then last week, we covered the first one. There's going to be 5 action steps. We're going to give you one each week. And this one we covered last week. We want everyone who calls Forest Park Church home to proclaim the message boldly. to have the boldness to proclaim it. Now, the second action step I'm going to cover today, and that is resource opportunities generously. Opportunities. If you were with us last week, you remember I said that opportunities are constantly presented to us. Every single day we get up, there are opportunities that are come our way. We've got to have the wisdom to know which ones do we take, which ones do we let go by. And we're going to have the courage to go ahead and say, okay, that's an opportunity I need to take. God, give me the courage, give me the bravery that I need to say yes and to walk through that door. And we also learned that if our eyes remain closed to the opportunities around us, we will miss those opportunities. They will pass us by. Now that is as an individual. It's also true of a corporate, the corporate gathering of the church is true of you as an individual. That's kind of what we focused on last week. But today I want to talk about what that looks like as a church body, as the entire church that might not be able to seize particular opportunities. Here's what I've learned, okay? As a local church body, hundreds of people who gather here, all of our staff team, directional team, all the people who make things happen here, as a church body, we are presented constantly with opportunities. And we mostly see the opportunities when they come. Now, that doesn't mean that I always see the opportunities. There are times when my eyes are somewhat closed to an opportunity that might come down the road, if you will, and Forest Park could jump on that opportunity and seize that opportunity. I might miss it, but somebody around me is going to see it. Okay, so together we mostly see the opportunities. If I don't see it, a staff member sees it. If a staff member doesn't see it, maybe someone on the directional team will see it. If someone on the directional team doesn't see it, maybe a volunteer will see it, because together we have more eyes, we see more things. So together we most of the time see the opportunities. Here's our challenge as a church, and this is going to get right to the heart of today's message. Our challenge as a church isn't being blind to the opportunities. Our challenge is having the resources required to seize the opportunities in front of us. That's where our challenge as a church body comes in. Specifically, I'm referring to funds, I'm referring to money, I'm referring to resources. It's why we have a brief moment in every single service. Josh just came out a moment ago and gave you an opportunity to give. It's why Brad last week talked about automating giving. It's why Bill talked about it a couple weeks ago, or I think Bill was, and then Brad or somebody, and we've all been kind of focused in on that this week. It's why we stand up and say, okay, listen, all the important things in your life you typically automate. Really important things like Netflix. You make sure you don't miss a payment. The cell phone, because you've got to have that with you if you're driving down the road or in the bathroom. You've got to have the cell phone, so you automate that. We automate the things in our life that we value, that we do not want to miss a payment with, okay? So we say, listen, what if you automate what's really important, and that is what's going on through the local church? So that's why we stand up and we say, automate the important. Go ahead and make that a priority in your life. Now, why do we do that? There are many reasons, but I want to make this as practical as I possibly can. One of the reasons we say that is because everything we do at FPC depends on generous people. Now, you may or may not know this, but whether it's Christmas at the park that we just had a few weeks ago and all the food and all the activities we had, whether it's the Angel Project where all the people, the kids in our community and families, whether it's a mission trip, whether it is a food outreach, whether it is clothing distribution, whether it is paying for everything we have here, all of it depends on generous people saying, you can count on me. I'll get a ticket off the card off the window. I'll show up on Thursdays to give away the food. I'll donate. I'll give tithes and offering. I'll do whatever. We are dependent on generous people. We receive no money, and this is especially important for those who are new here. We receive no money from anywhere else. If you give, we have it to use. If you do not give, we do not have it to use. We are totally dependent on what you give. That's it. There's nothing else coming in from anywhere else. If you give a little, we have a little. If you give a lot, we have a lot. If you are consistent, we are consistent. If you're inconsistent, we are inconsistent. Our ability to seize opportunities in front of us is directly connected to your willingness to give those resources in order to seize them. It is a partnership. Okay? Now here's the deal. Many of you cannot sing. I'm not implying that I've heard some of you sing and you can't sing. I'm just saying more than likely, many of you, in fact, most of you probably can't sing or play instruments or travel around the world or provide, different aspects of the church. but you can provide for those who are able. Very important you see this. You resource, we go. You resource, we build. You resource, we feed. You resource, we hire. You resource, we give away. You resource, we reach out. Again, it's a partnership, everybody working together. That's the first reason. The second reason, and this is really important, is FPC does not have an abundance of resources. Okay? And that's really important you understand. We have little margin. Sometimes no margin. Here's a few reasons. I've been sitting down and kind of going through, why is that? You know, I talked to some other friends of mine and they seem to have wider margins, and other churches, they seem to have a lot extra. Why is it that we don't? I've been here 18 years. And you say, well, maybe poverty follows you, Scott. I don't know. Maybe that's true. But why is it that we do not? And I wrote down a few things, okay? And those of you who are itching to get to a scripture, just hang tight. We'll feed you in a minute, okay? The people we reach, okay? That's not putting the people down. It's just the people we reach. We do not reach traditional church people who grew up with a high value on giving every single week. Most of the people who first walk into Forest Park walk in with their hand out because they're hurting, they're broken, they're in a very vulnerable place in their life. They're not walking, giving. They're kind of walking going, hey, I need something. So often there's a gap in between people coming in with their hand out and then eventually going, you know what? Now that God has done incredible things in my life and now that the church has served me, I want to also serve. So I'm going to now begin to return. There's sometimes a time gap there. We also do not make a big deal about money. Okay, if you're new here today and I'm talking about money, I assure you, okay, this is rare. I don't hardly ever stand up and make a big deal about money. We just don't. We don't connect your spiritual growth or decline or blessings and curses to your giving record. I mean, if I stood up and said, you're going to be cursed if you don't give, we'd probably have more money, okay? we would have beat down, depressed people, but we would be wealthy, okay? So anyway, and then the third reason is that we leave the decision up to you. We don't put a lot of pressure on it. We say, hey, here are the opportunities. Here are the things you can do. We try to make it as easy as possible, as simple as possible, but we don't make a big deal over it. Although all of that, okay, in my opinion, and I'm leading the church, so this is why it's that way. I think it ought to be that way, okay? Because of the way we do it, however, we do struggle sometimes to have the resources necessary to take advantage of the amazing opportunities that are presented to us. So, for those of you who love this place, one of the action steps that we want you to take, if you're not already taking it, is to generously resource the opportunities in front of us. Now, let's nose dive into this thing, okay? What I hear most often from people who do not give or are not consistent in their giving is, especially when it comes to like percentage giving, where it's 5% a week or 10% of their income a week, or stepping up to tithe or whatever it is. This is what I typically hear. I don't have the money. Okay, I just don't have it to give. Basically, I have no room in my finances to consistently and generously give weekly or monthly. Listen to me very, very carefully, okay? Because I'm going to start moving real fast through this. Today is not a guilt sermon. I promise you that. If you'll listen to me, don't walk out early because everybody will think you're offended, okay? Trust me, if you'll hang in here and just listen to this, today is not a guilt sermon. This is not about making anybody feel embarrassed or ashamed or put you on the spot. This is a transparent sermon, okay? This is an honest message. This is from my heart to your heart. This is looking at 2020 and just saying, hey, I love this place, now what? Well, let me tell you some now whats, okay? Let me tell you some things that was really important that we all understand. If you, listen to me very carefully, if you don't remember anything else, remember this. If you walk out of here today and give nothing, you will not be loved any less, okay? If you walk out of here and give nothing, you will not be welcome any less, all right? I promise you, the love and the welcome is not connected to your giving record. All right? If you walk out of here today and you give 20% of your income every week from this point forward, you will not be loved anymore. I ain't loving you anymore. Okay? All right? You will not be welcome anymore than you are right now. Okay? So the love and the welcome is not going to be dependent on your giving. All right? But, this is really important. If 30 or 40 of you who do not currently give walk out of here today in a positive way, you're challenged, you're encouraged, and you think, you know what? I think I could step up weekly. I think I could step up monthly. this is what it means. We will have more resources to seize more opportunities and reach more people and do greater things and better things and relieve pressure from people and just do an incredible job throughout our community. If 30 or 40 people step up and say, hey, you know what? You can count on me for 5%, 10%, whatever it is. I promise you, you hadn't seen anything yet when it comes to the influence Forest Park can have and the message of grace and the message of love and the message of healing for people all through this area. That's what it means. It's not connected to love. It's not connected to welcome. It's not connected to, if you give, now we'll let you slide through the audition. You can sing now, okay? I think there are some churches who actually do that. I think, why in the world is that person up there? Well, they give a lot. Okay. So anyway, that's not connected like that at all here, okay? Now let's go back to the main reason some of us struggle for not giving. I can't afford it. I don't have the financial room like other people do. If that's you, here's what I want you to know about you. If you don't already know this, I want to call this out, okay? More than likely, you want to give. I talk to people all the time who do not, and I don't check, they're just telling me, I don't give, but they want to. In their heart, in their soul, they want to give. They want to make a difference. It's not that they're stingy. It's not that they're selfish. I'm sure there are some people who are stingy and selfish, but that is not the majority of people who attend here especially. It's not that they're stingy. It's not that they're selfish. They feel trapped. And they feel trapped because possibly they've made some very poor decisions when it comes to finances. They've got themselves in a mess, or other people have made some decisions in their lives that have put them in a bind, and they have a very difficult time. And in the heart of hearts, in their soul, it bothers them. It bothers them. They feel trapped. I hate feeling trapped in any situation. It's one of the main reasons I don't like to sit in the middle when I'm flying on a plane. Anybody? Oh man, I got the middle seat. Seriously? I'm sitting there and I don't have room to stretch my legs. It impacts my ability to think. It impacts my ability to work. The only thing I'm thinking of is don't touch me, okay? And I'm thinking I don't want to touch them, I'm just trying to sit there. Some of us feel that way when it comes to our finances. We don't have enough space to stretch. We don't have enough space to do the things we want to do. We feel trapped. And I know that sometimes I'm sitting at my desk and I'm working and I'm like, you know what, I got to get up, I got to walk around. Or if you sit, in a plane and you get up and go to the bathroom and come back, your mental capacity just kind of stretches a little bit. You breathe a little bit more. Freedom, space gives mental freedom. Well, here's the deal. Financial space gives financial freedom. Now you have options. Now you have things you can do. Some of us sitting in this room are trapped and we feel suffocated when it comes to money. And when you sit here in a room like this and you see everything and you hear a message like this, it makes you feel worse. That's not what today is about. This is just calling it out and saying, listen, in 2020, let's make a goal to maybe kind of increase the space in our lives, get rid of some things that frees up a little space so that we have options to do even greater things with them. Right now, I imagine a lot of you feel like you're in the middle seat of an airplane in this message. You just kind of feel like, oh, I can't believe he's talking about this. I told someone out in the lobby a few minutes ago, I can talk about almost anything in a person's life. I mean, as personal as you can imagine in church. I could call it out and people will listen and go, that's good stuff right there. If I talk about money, the whole room goes, just gets nervous all through the congregation. You just relax, okay? We're not going to take up another offering at the end of this thing either, okay? Some of you are like, okay, now I feel better. All right, I was afraid you were going to really come down hard and then go, okay, now our ushers are coming forward and we're going to see just how much you care. We feel trapped. All right, we feel trapped. We don't have enough room to move around. Every single dollar in our life is spent before we get it, and it impacts our ability to work. It impacts our ability to rest. It impacts our ability to even think clearly. And then when you attend something like this, you're like, great, now I even feel worse. Not only do I have Visa after me and Verizon, I've got Jesus. Okay, now everybody's a bill collector, even Jesus. Listen, we're not after you today, okay? Jesus is not coming, he's on a bill collector, okay? Here's what I want to do, all right? I want to provide a few wisdom drops, if you will. Some drops of wisdom in the pool of chaos, all right? And I just want to stretch your thinking a little bit so that you walk in and go, you know what? That's a good point. I need to think through that. I need to work on that. I need to talk to somebody about that. I just need to get some more wiggle room in my life, all right? So let me give you some wisdom drops in just a moment. Before we get there, I want you to think about the earliest, most influential memory you have of money. Don't think too hard. Just what was your first kind of moment that you clashed with money or you thought about money? It could have been maybe when you had a job as a little kid and you were saving money, or you broke your piggy bank open and finally got all the money out. I don't know. What was your most influential first memory of money? Here's mine. When I was about 8 years old, my stepfather sent me to the store, which is about a half a mile from our church. Now, the reason why he sent me to the store is my uncle, my step-uncle, was actually pastoring this particular little church, and it had these old wooden pews inside, and they were dirty. They had taken over this church, or turned this building into a church, and they got these old pews, and they were dirty. So he said, Scotty, go down and buy some cleaning supplies, and he told me what to buy, and my uncle gave me some money and said, go down. This is a very small town. You could literally see the store from the church. Just go down there and get this and come back, and we're going to be cleaning these pews. So I take my uncle's money, and I go down to the store, and I can't find the cleaning supplies. And I ask, and they were all busy doing other things, and she pointed over to where they were, and I went over there, and I'm 8 years old. I couldn't find the cleaning supplies, but I did find some fireworks. Okay. So I figured, hey, they don't have the cleaning supplies. I'm already here, all right? And there are the fireworks, and they got them on sale. So I went ahead and bought the fireworks with my uncle's money. And I remember she put them in the bag, and I'm walking back down the street, and my stepfather sees me coming down with the red bottle rocket sticking out the top of the bag, and he says, where are the cleaning supplies? And I tell him the story. I couldn't find the cleaning supplies. I don't think they had cleaning supplies, but they did have fireworks, and I got a really good deal on fireworks, and I bought them. And both my step-uncle and my stepfather, very upset at me. In fact, I was so taken aback by how upset they were. I didn't understand it. So those early memories of money can shape what we think about money for years to come. Here's what I learned from that situation. Don't spend other people's money without asking. Simple. People get offended over money. In fact, money is extremely personal to people. I learned that. My uncle was not as kind as I thought he was. That's another lesson I learned. In fact, he was kind of a jerk, all right? And the big one is do a better job of hiding the product, okay? You don't walk down the street with the product in full view of everybody to see what you bought. I grew up in a home where saving and investing money not valued, believe it or not. What you had, you spent. Every single thing that came into our house, we spent it. If anybody asked for money, we gave it away. In fact, I remember times that my stepfather would give away money, and our family didn't even have enough money to take care of our own bills, but he gave away what he had. Only rich people save money in my family. You basically just spend it because you didn't have a lot anyway. So I grew up kind of under this umbrella of whatever you have, spend. If anybody needs it, give it away. And don't worry about saving because that's only wealthy people who have a whole lot of money anyway. So I didn't grow up. Some of you grew up in homes where you were taught the values of money management. You were taught how to save and how to invest. Man, I tell you what, I wish I knew now I wish I knew then what I know today. I wish somebody would have got to me when I was 20 and said, hey, do this, do this, do this, stop doing that. Because no doubt when you're 50 years old, you look back and think, wow, if I would have started this 25 years ago, I probably would be a whole lot better here or there. But nobody got to me. Nobody explained those things to me. I didn't understand them. Some of you are young. Learn all you can right now. Some of you are old. There's no hope for you, okay? There's nothing we can do, okay? But anyway, hey, let's learn from some of those who've gone on before us and do the best we can to invest. So I don't know where your spectrum is, where you are on that spectrum. Maybe there's things that other people don't know. Maybe you're in a mess today. Maybe you were taught terrible money management, or maybe you made decisions in your early young life and today you're paying for that. Others of you may be set up for the rest of your life because somebody got to you. I don't know. But wherever you are, there's wisdom in Scripture. And God gives incredible, incredible wisdom, truth that will set us free. And here's what I want to do. I want to give you some wisdom drops that will help you understand what to do with money. 3 wisdom drops today. The first one is everything I have belongs to God. That's pure truth. That is pure wisdom. I want you to take a look at a passage from one of the parables of Jesus. This is Matthew 25. Listen to what Jesus, when he tells this parable, what he says. He says, again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. And notice that word entrusted. He entrusted his money to them while they were gone. Verse 15, he gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. Then he left on his trip. This is very, very important. To be entrusted with something means to be trusted. He gave them money because he trusted they would do the right thing with it. Whose money was it? It was the master's money. Who did he give it to? People he trusted. The master entrusted his resources to his servants because he trusted his servants. In our case, here's the deal. God has entrusted us, not just with money. Folks, listen to me very carefully. He has entrusted us with skills. He has entrusted us with talents. He's entrusted us with possessions. And that ought to change how we view our responsibility for all of our possessions. Even talent and skills belong to God. You may not have a lot of money, but you have time, you have abilities, you have skills, you're artistic, you're musically inclined, you can sing, you can manage, you can financially, you are just very astute, you can teach, you can whatever, I don't know. All of our skills, all of our talents, all of it belongs to God. The talent, skills, and even opportunities allowing you to earn money, all of that belongs to God. I know that's a little radical for some of us, but look, the ability to repair cars and trucks, God gave you that. The ability to sell products, God gave you that. You might have to change your products, but the ability to sell them, God gave them to you. The ability to teach kids, God gave that to you. The ability to medically care for people, the ability to protect people, enforce laws, the ability to farm land, whatever it is, all of it has been entrusted to you because God trusts you will take it and do with it the right thing, the best thing, the wholesome thing. He's your silent partner, if you will. He's been in it the entire time. He's your key investor, whether you realize it or not. Everything we have has been entrusted to us because God trusts us. It is both humbling and it is both empowering to acknowledge that we are not the owners of all of our possessions. We are the managers of our possessions. They were given to us, for us, to manage. And here's the deal. If we manage well, we eat well. If we manage well, our kids eat well. If we manage well, our future will be secure. If we manage poorly, then those things are not necessarily going to be true in our life, and we're going to struggle our entire life. So the first drop of wisdom in the pool of chaos when it comes to finances and how to resource is every single thing in my life, everything belongs to God, and He's entrusted me with those things. The second drop of wisdom is God wants us to be good managers. He wants us to be good managers of what we have. Look at the next verse in this story. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give a what? An account of how they've used whose money? His money. Whose money is it? His. I'm telling you, if we would just let that sink in alone, that everything we have is ultimately God's, and then we start going, okay, if God has given me this job, and God has given me this home, and God has given me this income, and God has given me this business, I say, well, God didn't give you that business. He gave you the abilities to build it. He gave you the opportunities. You live in an amazing country. You have different resources that come your way, healthcare, all the different things. You have all of that. Now you are the manager of it, and one day, and this is not about guilt, this is not about fear, it's just a sobering reality. One day we will give an account of what we've done with all the resources that he has allowed to come through our lives, it will probably wake us up a little bit and go, wow. So it's really not mine to do with whatever I want to do with it. I really have been given this by God, and I am to manage it. And in that story, some receive more than others. That's the way it is with life. Some of us get more than others, but all of us give an account. Now, because we've been entrusted with God's gifts, we are to be good stewards of what we have been given. And we can all of us, myself, definitely me, better stewards of what we have. And it goes beyond being good with numbers or being an entrepreneur, having above average knowledge and being successful. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking what you have and managing it well and being a steward, a good steward of the gifts God has given to you and being diligent about it every single day. Now, before we get to what this parable teaches us about being good managers, let's take a look at what the one servant did who only had one talent. And here's where a lot of us are, okay? Notice this right here. Then the servant with the one bag of silver, some of you would go, hey, that's me. I've only got one bag of silver compared to a lot of other people. Okay. The servant with the one bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. Now notice this word, I was afraid. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back. He was afraid of being judged. He was afraid of being judged, that his master was harsh. His fear made him hesitant to fail. Fear of failure caused him to play it safe. He didn't do anything with his money, so you can have it back. Here's what I notice. When you only have one, it seems like you have a lot to lose. One of the reasons, and this is really going to sit hard on some of us, okay? But sometimes we got to get stung a little bit and awakened. One of the reasons people with little money rarely get more is because they are afraid to do what is necessary with the little they have. So they hoard it, they keep it, they're scared to trust God with the little they have, so they hide it and don't do anything with it. And then we're like, well, if I had more, I would give more. But I don't have a lot, so I'm going to hold on to what I have. Fear of judgment. I'll lose everything I have. People are going to judge me. Fear of failure. What if God doesn't come through? Fear of loss. If I give it away, how will I eat? Okay, it's a fear of the little I have, so I'm going to hide it. I'm going to hold on to it. And fear causes us to play it safe and not take a risk. And as boldly as I know how to say this, okay, one of the reasons Forest Park Church doesn't have an abundance of resources is because many who call Forest Park home are afraid. And they won't take a risk and trust God with the little they have and watch God do amazing things. That's just great faith, great resources, little faith, little resources, great fear, no resources, little fear, and abundance of resources. It just goes that way. That's me, Scott. I'm fearful. Well, the way to reduce fear is to expose those fears to light. Drag them out of the darkness. Don't let them sit behind you and be afraid of those things. This isn't about how much money you have in your account. I'm not talking about that, okay? This is about how fearful we are with the money we do have. All right? When you think about your finances, which of these options seem to reflect the truth in you? Option number one, I require financial assistance to get by. You don't have to lift your hand, okay? Just in your mind, think about it. There are five, so I'm going to give you three and then two more. Number one, I require financial assistance to get by. Is that you? Option two, I am struggling to keep up. Option three, I am able to make ends meet. That's it, just make ends meet. Option four, I am able to make ends meet and have some left over. Option five, I have more than I need for myself and for my family. So let's look at those again. Those three, those two. Where are you on that scale? So Scott, what if I'm at one or what if I'm at two? That's knowledge is power. Simply acknowledging where you are and calling that out, dragging it into the light. This is not about you're bad or you've done something horrible. Look, I know people who are excellent when it comes to money, and they have been entrusted and they've done well, but they've got other areas of their life that are not so good. And then other people who struggle with their money and are not good managers of their money, but they are unbelievable in other areas. Folks, all of us have strengths and weaknesses. So this sermon is not about judging you or condemning anybody. It's about waking us up to where we are and simply saying, let's drag that into the light and let's deal with it. So maybe what you need to do to move from 2 to 4 or whatever is you need to start trusting God more by stepping out. Maybe you need to get some financial counseling. Maybe you need to take a risk. For the first time in your life, take a financial risk. Maybe you need to get on a budget because you don't have one and money just goes out the window. Okay? I don't know. But there are steps you can take that will move you from where you are to where you need to be. Well, I don't know, Scott, I don't know where I am exactly. I mean, this is really making me think a lot. Drag your financial issues into the light. Now, here's the deal. Let me give this to you real quick and then we'll get to drop 3. How to embrace the light of faith over the darkness of fear. Because some of you are scared. When it comes to finances, you're scared. All right? 3 very important little truths here I want to give you. Well, number 1 was already there. Use what you've been given. Use what you've been given. Despite the fact each of the good servants got different amounts, it was really only the behavior of acting in faith and being a good manager that the master was concerned about. In other words, some of them he gave 5 bags of silver, and the one he gave 1 bag of silver, it wasn't about the amount. It's what they did with what they had. So it's not about you having a whole lot more money. It's about what you're going to do with what you have. That's the bottom line. Listen, this is going to be hard for some of us. If you won't consistently and generously give on your minimum wage salary job, I promise you, you wouldn't if it was tripled. It's not about the amount. It's about whether or not you trust God. It's not about the amount. It's whether or not you're willing to take a risk. Okay? People say, well, if I had more, I would give more. Here's what I've learned. Statistically, when we have more, we spend more. That's exactly right. And when you take a look statistically, watch this. This blew my mind as a pastor. When you can look at this across the board, as income goes up, percentage of giving goes down. In fact, the most consistent, if you only looked at the percentages, the most consistent percentage givers are those on the bottom end of the spectrum of income. Because when we start making more money, what do? Hey, now I can afford a bigger house. Now I can afford another truck. Now I can get the boat. Now I can go on that vacation. So all the extra money gets eaten up and we're still sitting there going, if I had. If you were here a couple years ago, they all run together, sermons. But if you were here a while back, you remember I talked about a study was done on what makes people happy, how much money you need. And they asked those who made $30,000 a year, how much would you need to be happy? And they said $50,000. And they asked the people who made 50, what would you need? They said 75. If you asked the 75 how much they need, they said 100. If you asked the 100 how much they needed 200. We always lift our expectations of happiness every single time we make more money. So it's about trust. It's not about the amount. Okay? So use what you've been given. Start there. Number 2, know what you've been given. Okay? What does that mean? Proverbs 27:31. I didn't put this on the screen, but Proverbs 27, 23, and 24. From the Living Bible, I love the way it's said. Know the state of your flocks and your herds. Now, we wouldn't use flocks and herds. We would, know the state of your savings account, your checking account, how much money you know it. It's unbelievable how many people have no idea what they have. They have no idea how in debt they are. They don't know the state of their financial affairs. So if you really want to fight the darkness of fear with the light of faith, use what you have, know what you've been given. So use what you've been given, know what you've been given. And the third one is take advantage of what you've been given. Okay? Listen, here's the deal, okay? This is one of those things I hope gets down into your heart. You can waste what God's given you on silly, trivial things that won't matter years from today, or you can invest what God has given you in people, into His church, and to what will outlast you and me. Okay, you wait. Some of you are much younger than I am. Some of you are really a lot older than me. But some of you are much younger than me. You have little kids. All the things that you stress over right now to get them for Christmas that will absolutely make their life just the most amazing. And When you're about 50, you'll find them in the garage. And you're going, I cannot believe I spent so much time trying to find that toy right there and spending so much money on that. And they played with it for just a little while and discard it. That doesn't mean don't get toys. It's just funny how as we grow, the things that we thought were just going to matter so much are rusted, thrown away, broken. We waste so much on things that won't matter when we could take what we have and invest them in what will outlast all of us. Last wisdom drop is God rewards good managers. He rewards good managers. Look at this scripture right here. To those who use well what they have been given, even, come on, say it with me, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. So when you use what you have wisely and you manage wisely, God rewards those. Hey, those of you who own a business in here, if you have an employee and you give them something to do and they do it really, really well, and they return a profit back to you, and then you have more responsibilities, and you got this other guy that every time you give him something, he doesn't do a very good job with it, you tell me, where will more responsibilities go? Where will more raises go? Where will more rewards go? To the person who's managed well. That's just wisdom. That's wisdom. If we manage what we have well, we will be blessed. We will be rewarded. That's the way it is. Okay? So here are two things that I want us, as we wrap this up today, two things that I want us to think through. One, I want you to take an account. Take an account of where you are financially. Take an account of, do you give? Take an account of what risk are you taking? Take an account, or are you taking the little that you have and taking a percentage of it off and saying, you know what, God, this year I'm going to trust you with this. You've given it to me. You've entrusted me. I'm going to trust you. Take an account. If you're in debt and you need to have help, go get help. If you don't even know how much you have, find out how much you have. Figure it out. Don't let it just sit there. You can throw all the dirty clothes into the closet and close the door, but I promise you when you come back, they will not be washed and folded. Ignoring things doesn't clean things and take care of things. Take an account. And here's the attitude change I'd love to see is celebrate when you give. I was at a church a while back, and when the person came out to receive the offering, they said, okay, it's time to receive our offering. And the entire congregation erupted in applause. They were celebrating the fact they had an opportunity to return back to God what he had given to them. Can you imagine if we had an attitude like that? I'm not saying we like Forest Park, but just we in general. Just had an attitude of, it's not something that we're going to hurry up and get the offering over. I brought my sister today. I hope she doesn't come during the offering. We're scared. We're embarrassed. Can you just imagine, though, if we had an attitude of celebration, that we can take what God has given to us and invest in what will outlast all of us? Hey, I love Forest Park. Now what? Resource opportunities generously and watch what God does. Let's pray. Father, how amazing is it that we get an opportunity to manage your resources? You give them to us every day. We wake up, we have air in our lungs, we have light, we have hearing, we have food, we have friends and family, we have opportunities to go make money, we have jobs, we have benefits, we have transportation. Sometimes we forget all the things we have in our life that are just unbelievably generous that you've poured into us. Father, help us to see that you've trusted us with those things. And if we will take a portion of that back and resource your church, take a portion of that back and resource what will outlast us, take a portion of that and resource people, reach people, feed people, take care of your church, God, you will always, always, always reward us. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for washing and cleansing and making us whole. Thank you for your compassion and mercy every day of our lives. God, take this message and drive it so deep inside of us that it literally changes how we experience life and the resources Forest Park has to continue to reach more and more people. We ask these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.